Mrs. Tzipi Hotovely. Thank you.
I'm very happy to be here. One of the things I'm most proud about of being a democratic person, that I allow everyone to shout and scream. This is part of democracy, so thank you. I'm very honored and happy to be here, but I'm not going to speak before the interruptions will stop, so please. Guys, I must say that I've seen much better shows in the Knesset, so you can't impress me by this one. I'm really happy to be here. I must say that this is my first time in Palo Alto, and I must say that the spirit of Silicon Valley is everywhere. I can actually feel the fact that people here are real into tikkun olam, are real into making the world a better place. And I must tell you that coming here so far away from Israel, I'm coming and representing a very successful startup. And I must say we're not planning any exit in the coming future. So it really doesn't matter how some of the hosts here, the people of Iton Haaretz, and I'm very happy to be the right-wing voice in this almost democratic event. I'm very happy to be here and represent, I would say, more optimistic vision. Maybe it's because I'm young, but it goes by with the age, so don't worry about it. I'm sure that it won't stay for too many years, the fact that I'm young, but I really hope to stay optimistic. I wanted to start, first of all, with thanking you for being here. The fact that you're here means a lot about the connection, the fact that you want to be connected to Israel. And you know something? It really doesn't matter what do you think about the conflict or what do you think about what Israel should be doing. The fact that you're here, you vote with your legs and with the time that you spend in order to show you care. And this is for me the most important thing, so thank you so much. Zach Bodner, I said I'm going to embarrass you, so thank you. And I would like to thank our wonderful Consul General, who doesn't get too many visitors here, so I'm coming to supervise that he's working. I was impressed that you're actually working, so thank you. Andy David, very happy again. So we finished all the thank yous, I would say. And now let's go to the practical world. When I walked into Netanyahu's office 6 months ago, and he gave me the opportunity and the honor to be the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. He said it with his very official voice, you're going to be the Deputy Foreign Minister, but I'm going to be your minister, so you're going to be very fortunate. And I'm very fortunate to work with him, and he asked me, what do you want to focus on? And I answered that I would like to focus on 3 major fields. And those are the things I would like to share with you today. The first field is actually America. I would like to share with you my personal experience with America. I was 18 years old young girl when I came to serve here as part of my national service. It's a very unique national service, I must say, but I was really proud to serve my country in Atlanta, Georgia, here. And what I was really fortunate even more, it was to experience American Jewry. I was teaching in a reform school, in a Jewish Hebrew school. I was teaching on Sunday school. I was doing a youth group program. I was actually tasting a little bit of what America is all about, diversity. And I think for me, as the young generation of politicians, the most important thing is doesn't lose the connection to the young generation of actually your children, because I don't see them here in this crowd. And I think that one of the things that I asked Netanyahu to do is to create a new birthright. Because the beautiful program of Birthright, by the way, I used to work in Birthright as a law school student, I think it's already fulfilled what it was supposed to do. 500,000 students came to Israel for 10 days. They experienced the wonderful spirit of Israel. They got back home. They got really connected to Israel. But eventually, when they were asked the deep questions about the conflict, they didn't have answers. And I think this is what we need to do now. We need to create a new framework to the next young generation, the intellectuals, the people that are sitting on campuses, and they get to hear Palestinian propaganda, but the fact that Israel is unright, they need to have the tools. And we are creating now, hopefully together with the Jewish federations and together with many good people that would like to donate, Taglit experts, the people that are going to learn more about the conflict, are going to learn more about Israel on a broader perspective. And I truly believe that if we work on it throughout this year, we'll manage to create the new bridge to your children. So I really hope it's going to work. The second thing I wanted to deal with in the foreign ministry is East Asia. Probably going to say, what does you want to look for in East Asia? Didn't you travel in India after the army? So I did. I traveled in India and Nepal. It was beautiful. But that's not the reason I wanted to concentrate in East Asia. East Asia is the new growing markets of the world. China is the second market of the world. Japan is the third market of the world. Vietnam is the most growing East market of the world. My first international visit was to Japan and Vietnam. I came there with my husband and a small baby, and all the Japanese officials that I met said, "You are taking your baby with you? You're a woman that actually working with her baby?" So I said, yes. So I said, forget about policy. Let's speak about women promotion. So I'm very proud to represent young generation of young mothers that want to promote women to top leadership. I really believe that this is the way to show that your society goes forward. And the Israeli society today... And the Israeli society today really represent that. We have the most feminine Knesset ever. We are getting into the point where a third of our members are women. I think that we need to have more women in the government, but generally we have women in all top positions. In the banking area, definitely in the business area, and you find more women in the judicial branch of Israel. You find more women serving in combat units in the army. So you see it all around. And I think this is one of the promises of a better Israeli future. So we're starting to speak to you about East Asia. East Asia is a place that for too many years was a closed gate to Israel. Till the 90s, there was no connection to China. And today, China is admiring Israel. We get to see more and more officials from China coming. I got to meet more than 3 in the last 6 months. And we got to have the vice president, the deputy prime minister of China. We got to meet the governor of Hong Kong. All of them are admiring Israel's technology. The president of India came, first historic visit just 2 months ago. I think those things are representing a dramatic change in the way the world is looking at Israel. Israel is not anymore being looked by the conflict. Israel is looked by its assets to the world. And the great assets that Israel has is actually the human assets. The fact that we are the second startup nation after the Silicon Valley. The fact that we are one of the top 5 countries in the world of actually venture capital. This is unbelievable. We're the top country if you put it per capita. This is amazing. I think that this is part of the things that people don't like to speak about because it's too good. So I came here to speak about good things as well, and we need to be proud of it. When I visited Japan and Vietnam, they were interested both in women promotion, and the second thing they were interested about is the innovation spirit. Because one of the things that Japan wants to learn from Israel, and you see that all around the East, is how to break the paradigms of thinking out of the box. This is something that Israel is really good at. And today we have more and more together thinking think tanks in Israel, in China, in Japan. We worked together. We extended our international economic boundaries to the fact that today with China we have over $10 billion of trade. This is unbelievable. We have the same with India, and we see that developing and growing all the time. Israel has doubled its export in the last 7 years. Throughout this whole, speaking about BDS, Israel is doubling its export. It means that we're succeeding, and the world cares about economic interests. And I do think that if some of you are wondering, this is not instead of America. This is coming as addition to America, because what we have with America is shared values, and we're not going to replace our democratic shared values. This is what we have, and we're going to remain the closest friends, no matter how many disagreements we have on the way. So after speaking about East Asia, let's speak about more complicated things. I think that all of you are concerned about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And, you know, it's not something to speak about in a few minutes, but I would like to share with you some thoughts that I have as the generation after the disengagement, after Ehud Barak, Camp David campaign that failed, after Ehud Olmert. And I would like to start from a very convenient position. Because one of the things that I started when I got into the foreign ministry was to speak about the fact we're obligated to speak about our justice. And people were so, this is such an old-fashioned thing. What's your story with justice? Let's speak about security. Let's speak about the regular stuff. Now, I would like to describe it to you in a very simple story, why it's so important to me to go back to the historic justice when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict before we even start to discuss the details. The reason is very simple. For too many years, actually for over 2 decades, Israelis were speaking with the world only in one terminology: security, security, security. Now, the other side, while we were saying security, was actually saying, you're a thief. You stole my house. And what we answered was, it's very dangerous out there. I need to stay in your house. Well, if you're a thief, it doesn't matter whether it's dangerous or not. You're still a thief. And what I would like to say, we are not thieves. 1967 war was not a war that made us thieves. 1967 war was a war of justice and was a war of defense, just like the 1948 war. And speaking on an intellectual level, I really think that every time you use moral arguments, it's much stronger than a security argument. Security arguments you can have from all kinds, but the Palestinians were very consistent about using the moral arguments. I think you all consider yourself as moral people. You don't want to be part of an unmoral state. You don't want to be identified with a state that does unmoral things. I do think Israel is a moral state. I do think we have a moral policy. It reflects in so many fields. But let's speak specifically about the conflict. So after saying that we are here by justice, that we belong here, one of the first things that I did, and again, some people were amused by the fact that I was sending diplomats to the Kotel. They were saying, what would you like them to do there? Would you like them to put a petek? Would you like them to pray? So I said, no. The only thing I would like to change is the narrative of victims, because the only thing that was obligated by the Foreign Ministry protocol was the visiting in Yad Vashem. And I think it's very important to visit Yad Vashem, but you can't have your narrative based on Yad Vashem, because this is going all the way back to Golda Meir that used to say, the way to explain Israel is Shimshon the Nebuch. It means that you need to be Shimshon a Gibor from the Bible, but you also need to be a little bit of a Nebuch in order to have the world's support. I don't want such an asbara. I don't want to be a nebuch. I don't want to be a victim. Because you know something? We're not victims. We are actually much stronger than that. And I think we need to start speaking about the fact we have the justice, not the fact we're poor and people are killing us, and this is why we deserve to live. This is not good enough of a justification for a Zionism, at least for me. Not to really mind. So, after we said everything about historic justice and the fact that we have strong connection to the state of Israel, the land of Israel, let's speak about the conflict itself. Just last week, there was a big story about one of our journalists, Aviv Drucker, that shared with the Israelis all the truth about the peace all the peace negotiation process of Annapolis and of Camp David. And for the first time on record, he brought the three leaders that were working on this peace process, Ehud Barak, Ehud Olmert, and Abu Mazen, and they were speaking on camera to the Israeli people. And I think one of the most amazing things about it was the fact that for the first time, you heard Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert that was speaking in the most clearest voice, and he said, I gave up the Kotel. And Condoleezza Rice was there to testimony on the fact that he actually gave up the Kotel. Are you hearing me? He gave up the Kotel, the only place in the world where all Jews are saying, this is a red line. This is something that we're obligated to historically. You can't do that, even if you do some arrangements in the holiest area in Jerusalem. But he actually did that. And you know something? He did one more thing. One of the things that Ehud Olmert did in this amazing, I truly recommend you to watch it. One of the things that he did, he actually broke the last Israeli taboo about right of return. And he agreed that 10,000 refugees will go back to the state of Israel. And the answer, as you know, was obviously no. And Condoleezza Rice, not myself, not any right-winger, was writing in her book, in her biography, what Abu Mazen said after having this dramatic thing. She said, I couldn't believe that I'm hearing an Israeli prime minister. He said, if you're bringing back 10,000 refugees, what am I going to say to 4 million others? So generally what he said, and I would like to quote another, not a very famous right-winger, Yossi Beilin, the architect of Oslo, that gave an interview a few months ago to the New York Times. And what he said was, the reason there is not an agreement is because there is not even one single Palestinian leader that is willing to give up the right of return. What is the right of return? The right of return is basically saying that the war is about 1948, that there is no way to solve the conflict by drawing a borderline. And this is where most Israelis find themselves at 2015. They're saying they don't want the Kotel, they don't want Jerusalem, they want it all. And I think from this understanding or clarifying what the other side is doing and defining the question, we can definitely derive the answers. Because if the problem is 1948 and the problem is the right of return, and the return should be to Yafo and Akko and Tzfat and Lod and Ramle, then we need to look differently on the solutions. Because for so many years, I'm speaking to you about 5 generations, the Palestinians have been put to refugee camps. Does it sound anything logical to you that for 5 generations, Palestinians are raised on the idea that one day, and this day will be very close, they will go back to their homeland, Israel, the state that you know, in the borders of 67? Does it make any sense? Well, if the UN was consistent and UNRWA was the way it treated all refugees, I would say, okay, that's the international strange way to treat refugees. But this is unique. The UN is not treating this way any refugees in the world. You see all the refugees coming to West Europe now. Is anyone thinking to put them in refugee camps and to say, 5 generations from now, you're going to get back to Syria? Does it make any sense? No, they're trying to resettle them. The only people in the world that are still considered refugees after 5 generations are the Palestinians. And the reason is because the world is feeding them with the right of return. So in the back door, you have UNRWA, who's actually promoting the right of return to the Palestinian people. This is an international move that is actually working against any solution of the conflict. Now let's speak about money. Do you know how much money was invested in the Palestinians? Well, you know something? We have stopped to count the billions because, as my colleagues in the foreign ministry are saying, this is more than the Marshall Plan after World War II. This is unbelievable. When you were speaking about foreign aid, we're speaking about Palestinians who have received more than any, listen to this, more than any country or private person in the world. What was the money made for? I'm sure you know. Well, I think this is another mistake of the international community. And one of the things I would like to promote is more of a positive discourse about what can be done in a positive way. Money is a great power, but the question is how you use it. And today, the money of the international community that goes all the way to the Palestinian Authority and to Gaza is totally misused. It's feeding the dream of right of return, as I said in UNRWA, but it's also doing another thing. And the other thing is the fact that 13 and 11 and 12 years old kids are walking around the streets and they're stabbing Israeli children, and some of them, unfortunately, are getting killed. And what's the reason for that? The fact that they've been feeded, actually I would like to phrase it in a better way. Hillary Clinton, maybe the next president of the United States, was saying they are poisoning those children with their incitement in schools. This is the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas. And I think the international community has a strong responsibility of what they teach and with what they show on television. And the fact that we are in a world where you have things on the internet, can you actually control it? Well, you can control. First of all, tomorrow I'm going to visit Google, which are in charge of the YouTube things. And I think one of the things the Foreign Ministry has managed to do throughout this last rise of violence was to add another category of incitement. And I think it's very important. And I'm sure we're going to continue this fight on incitement on the websites. But it's not enough. We still need to have the leadership. And the leadership today is doing two things that I think the international community can't forgive on. The first thing is the fact that Abu Mazen gives the ability to every suicide killer to have a whole network of support to his family. Some of our Shabak investigations have proved that those suicide killers have the motivation to do so because they know their families are going to be treated like kings. This is Abu Mazen doing with the budget that the international community is sponsoring. And the other thing, of course, is the official television that Fatah is putting the movies on a daily basis that are comparing Jews to monkeys, pure anti-Semitism, pure hatery. Those are the things that are helping the videos on the net to become so effective. So I would say that if the third of the budget of the Palestinian Authority is coming from this source of the international community, you should start monitoring it. You're not obligated to be the education minister of the Palestinian Authority. You do allow and you must require from the Palestinians to start educating their children differently. Because I do think that the real infrastructure for peace works through education. And maybe it's because most leaders don't have the patience to speak about the education. They never paid attention to the fact that the international community can improve or disimprove good education or bad education. And I'm not saying that it's so easy. I'm not naive. But I do think that today, international money is going for bad reasons. And the refugee camps are keeping the dream of right of return, which is against any idea of any division of this country, which means it's against everyone who thinks that the Palestinians should have independent state. And I'm saying that the international community is working against their own interest. Let me share with you some of my experiences in the foreign ministry in the last 6 months. I'm meeting like around 30 leaders from the world. Some of them are coming from Europe, and they're all saying the same thing. You must get into agreement. And when I'm saying, okay, we can't because the Palestinians are going into internationalization of the conflict, what's their answer? So go on a unilateral basis. Let's speak about unilateral basis. I would like each of you to answer the 3 questions I'm asking every European leader that is coming to Israel and is thinking that the unilateral way is a solution. First, who's going to take control of the land if Israel withdraws? Second, what's going to make us, Israel, a promise that Gaza, the Gaza experiment, won't be back again in Judea and Samaria? Third, what is the future that is waiting to the Palestinians? If you're so liberal, if you're so positive about Palestinian rights, what's the future that is waiting for them? Let me give you a few answers. From the Germany foreign minister, from the Italian foreign minister, from the Dutch foreign minister. The first question, who's going to take the land? The people that are honest enough intellectually, they all know that the minute Israel withdraw, we will get either Hamas or ISIS. When I'm asking them, do you think in a world that countries, national countries of the Islam are collapsing, do you think there is any chance that this entity will remain? In closed rooms are saying, we think there is a very small chance. And then I'm asking them, so we're going to have the Gaza experiment all over again. Okay. And do you remember the high buildings where the officials of Fatah were thrown away by Hamas people? Check Ramallah. I think there are some tall buildings over there also. And I'm being sarcastic about it, but the truth is, they're terrified from the idea. The Palestinian Authority is terrified from the idea. So everyone agrees the fact that Palestinian entity can't remain. Whether with Israeli help, whether with international help, it can't remain because the underneath forces of the terror and the extremism is so strong, we'll eventually have Hamas or ISIS. And the second question, are you going to promise us that the Gaza experiment won't go back again? You promised us two things after the withdrawal from Gaza. The first was legitimation from the world for a self-defense. Every European foreign minister I'm meeting is saying, you must stop all the things you do in Gaza. So I'm telling him, but this is a self-defense. So saying, no, it's harming the Palestinians. It's a humanitarian crisis. And I'm saying, how do you expect us to defend ourselves from tunnels, from rockets? And the answers I'm usually getting is, as long as Israel has a military influence about the Palestinians, it's in charge. So unilateral withdrawals is not giving anything, not in terms of the future of the Palestinians, not in terms of the ability of Israel to defend itself, and definitely not in terms of a better future to the two people that live here. So this is why I think this is not a good solution. I do think that monitoring the international money is a good start. I do think that education is a good start. I do think that calling the Palestinians to take responsibility and to have a positive vision on the people is a good start. And of course, she said, I have just a last minute before I need to leave, the settlements issue. One of the things that Israelis has learned from the Gaza experiment is the fact that settlements mean nothing, because there is no settlements in Gaza, but there are still rockets, terror organization, and tunnels underneath that are hitting more than 1 million of our citizens. So settlements were never the issue. The Palestinian terror started way before the first settlement. PLO was established at 1964, as you all know. So this is really not the issue. But the second thing, now I would like to quote Benjamin Netanyahu. The idea that liberal people can think that a transfer of 300,000 Jews that are sitting in their homeland were stand there by their government after having a defense war, this is something that a liberal thought will think it's a legitimized thing. I think it's absurd. Transfer of Arabs, no way. But transfer of Jews, of course, Jews are used to being removed. This is something that is morally bad. And I think the other thing we can't allow ourselves is to think that Israel can live with 20% Arabs, but Palestinian Authority should be Judenrein. This is impossible. This is impossible. I'm very glad you agree with some of the ideas I shared with you. I'm sure I could have spoken much more. The only request I have when I finish, how many of you are in the technological area? Good. I have a request. Please make the flying here shorter. It's too difficult to fly 16 hours, and I would love to come again with my family. So thank you so much for listening.